Good morning, and this is Sunrise. I'm Ayo Makinde welcoming you. Don't worry, I'm not alone this morning. It just happens that I'm starting alone this time. Just so happens. So it's not, particularly anything designed, but we all woke up to, got the information yesterday that the Nigerian Army announced the burial arrangement for the late Chief of Army Staff and 6 other people who died in a plane crash. The information came from the Director of Army Public Relations, Mohammed Yerima, who said the event would commence at the National Mosque and National Christian Center, Abuja, at 10 a.m. today. It was very, very heart-wrenching to hear that people, especially the Chief of Army Staff, who's just recently been put in office, and along with some others. And of course, you can see the images of that occurrence. That's the plane crash, the site of the plane crash, being the fire being put out there. Of course, you see that's some amateur video there, and some others, also looking at how things can be there. And it's just, it's very, very heavy on many people's hearts. One of the people who died was said to have just recently gotten married, I think about 3 months ago. So how the family, the entire family is taking that, it is something most certainly disturbing. Alera, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm here. This is all so sad. It's more compelling for us because of the pledge that he made when he took office. And a lot of people were very hopeful that he was going to be able to do something about our situation because he sounded so genuine about it. It's so sad when we lose lives like this. I mean, Boko Haram is running our soldiers into the ground every day, and then this happens. Loss of more, of our armed forces. It's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching. Our condolences to the families and to the forces, the loss of such senior officers,
I don't even know where to begin, And I think this kind of thing, the brevity of life should be a constant lesson for everyone as to why we need to do the best we can while, we're on this side of the divide, so to speak.
So, we mouth it all the time. When these things happen, we are sober for just a minute, and the next minute we're back to our bad ways.
Like it never happened the first time. So the decisions we talked about before, you're talking about, a decision that he made, a pledge he made, and even that very bold and courageous declaration he made before the troops, that we needed to stamp out these criminals and all of that. It's just something. So on the one hand, we talk about these, and then these kinds of things happen to us, and then we just need to pay attention to certain things. So we need to always bear in mind the brevity of life and how we will be remembered when we are gone.
Yes.
It brings to mind what kind of what do we say about you when you are no longer governor?
When you're gone.
When you're no longer governor, when you're no longer a commissioner, you're no longer a member of parliament, the decisions you made before you left, and how it's reverberated on the lives of people. Well, tough calls have to be made. Tough decisions have to be made. But what are the palliatives, so to speak? What are the cushioning that's released for people? Because when you hear that the Nigerian governors, for instance, have given their backing to the full deregulation of the downstream sector, the question you're asking is, first of all, was it with the thoughts of the people. I don't even know where to begin with that.
That's where my mind went when you said, what are people going to say about you when you're no longer in office? And imagine now people waking up to hear that it is the governors who are saying federal government should increase the price of fuel. And the federal government has rejected it, at least for now. I mean, the governors are closer to the people than the federal government. And the local government is even closer to the people. So they are the ones who see what the people are going through. And they know that right now, all is not well. People are struggling to survive. Some people can only afford to eat once a day. And the important thing about the price of fuel is that you take it up by 1 naira, and it affects every aspect of our lives. So if you start selling petrol at 385 naira per liter,
or 408 in some cases.
How will the man who earns 30,000 naira get to work? I mean, you're screaming corruption now? Well, corruption is going to be walking on 2 legs staring at you then, because everybody is going to have to survive one way or another. Beg, borrow, steal, kill. You know, our situation will certainly get worse should that happen.
But that's why I'm talking about the polities. What are the other economic considerations that have been made?
But government doesn't have any money.
I mean, if there are policies that will jumpstart activities, jumpstart economic activities, for instance, every economist we've had to speak with has said that we are more of a consuming nation than a producing nation.
Without a doubt.
Which we have tremendous potential to do. I saw a video, I don't know if you saw it as well, of a community in Ilorin where the community, the entire area went troops to the house of, I think, the emir or something, the palace, and they were just shouting,
we're hungry.
Everybody is hungry, This morning, I happened on Twitter, I rarely do it, I just happened, just scrolling, and I stumbled on a particular thread that was very, very touching, and I felt like, putting out word as well, which is, they were saying, if you have some money to give someone, give it. If you need money, drop your account details here. Let's see what we can do to help each other. So, and I saw both. One, people are asking for money, dropping their account numbers, and
the other, people are giving. No matter how small.
No matter how small. Yeah. So will that happen in that kind of regime that you're talking about? I don't know. Definitely will take menu off the table of many. Oh, talking about menu.
Yes, we're going to start by looking at the state of the polity. It looks like we talk about that every week now, and we shall be for a long time to come, it seems.
And then there's this device management system. You remember that policy put out by, that announcement by the NCC that we need to know your IMEI number, the one on your phone. What's it about? More later.
Well, I think NCC has come out and said that, no, it's not compulsory. It's not compulsory. Oh, anyway, then from there we'll be looking at it. We'll keep our eye on the crypto dip. What is all that? All that hassle about cryptocurrencies and all that? There was a sudden dip in the course of this week. We'll be looking at that.
And some are saying it's the best time to buy. Then International Day of Biodiversity. Wondering what that is about?
Stay with us.
Yeah.
And we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. And all I can say to you is that she's a she.
You only know when she's a she.
She's not a she.
I'm gonna protest, but not today. Not today.
So you can be part of the program. Our Twitter handles will be showing on the screen very soon. You can be part of our conversation today. So get whatever it is that makes you comfortable and spend the next 3 hours odd with us on Sunrise. Thank you for joining us this morning. Well, let's start by looking at the state of the polity. At the beginning of the week, the NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress, embarked on a strike and protest in Kaduna State over the plan by the state government, which it did implement, to sack civil servants in the state. This sparked up some pandemonium because the state government sacked nurses below grade level 14 for embarking on the strike in solidarity with the NLC, as well as declared the NLC president wanted. I'm sure you witnessed in the course of the week all that drama that was going on when the president said, the governor came to where we were protesting and I was looking at him, and all that. Anyway, that is just one of the things we're going to be looking at today concerning the state of our polity. And to help us.
I think we should also include the latest, which is the conversation. It should be a conversation between the Southern governors and the AGF. It's a conversation.
Yeah, that's coming as well. That's coming.
I'm just saying.
That sparked off a lot of brouhaha in the course of the week as well. Well, to help us look at these two and some other issues, it's my pleasure to welcome a legal practitioner who's with us here in the studio in Lagos, Mr. John Oloyede. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
And joining us virtually, we have the Chairman, National Conscience Party, Mr. Yunusa Tanko. Good morning, Mr.
Good
Tanko.
Morning. Good morning.
And we also have the founder, Nigeria First Initiative, Ezekiel Nya Etuk. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be with you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Let me begin with Mr. Oloyede, if I may. The strike has been called off. So what do you think about all that drama that was going on? Mr. Waba being declared wanted, the protest being described as sabotage.
Well, we're talking about the state of the polity, and many Nigerians now describe the Nigerian situation as a season film. I mean, season 1, season 2, we keep moving from one to the other. It's quite unfortunate that governance is now all drama and no action. Kaduna State, incidentally, is one state that should be, that used to be a melting pot for the Nigerian state. Very accommodating, very peaceful, very clean, everything you wanted in a good environment used to be there in Kaduna and Kano for every Nigerian. It was a mini Nigeria. But now you have a situation, I mean, it would be out of place to just isolate Kaduna and say, oh, Kaduna has been a big letdown. It is a reflection of what is happening in every part of Nigeria, albeit it's a bit more stringent out there because of the problem of terrorists, kidnappers, and all whatnot going on out there. Now, going specifically, the strike action and all that, the governor, I mean, to my mind, in my own thinking, went too far when he declared the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress wanted for declaring a strike. In the first instance, how do you sack a group of workers? You just sack them unilaterally. You didn't declare redundancy. You didn't talk about how these workers are going to be, or how they have been retrained, how they are going to be accommodated, how their entitlements are going to be paid. You just sacked them in one fell swoop. And then the labor union, of course, the labor union has not, been with Nigerians in our cries all over the years, recently. But then, the labor union did what it should do in any country by declaring a strike. And when it declared a strike, it was doing that in consonance with the law. They announced it. They said it's going to be a warning strike, that you can't just sack people like that. There are things you have to do. You have to engage labor. You have to engage the people involved. You didn't do all that. And because they did what they should do, unionism, fighting for the rights of workers, you said you are declaring the president wanted, for the president of NLC wanted, for is it for breach of peace? Because
Economic sabotage.
economic sabotage. That's what he said. Now, who is sabotaging which economy? I mean, if things work properly in Nigeria, if indeed workers actually work and earn their pay, how do you explain a situation where somebody will just sack thousands of workers and the state will still be running, particularly the health sector? Now, how do you come to terms with a situation where, looking at the justice system, the judiciary has been comatose for over 2 months, about 2 months now, and life goes on. We're living.
Does this suggest that maybe the civil service in that state was already overbloated? For him to be able to do away with so many.
Now, that is the position of the governor. You remember last year or year before, some people were sacked because he said the civil service was overbloated. He said that. He conducted tests and so many people failed and he laid off many. Now, it simply means, of course, we're living the times. We all now know COVID-19 has shown that quite a number of departments are actually overbloated, because the things we used to have everybody around in offices doing next to nothing, we now see that they can be done with just two persons can actually run a branch of a bank.
Well, that's perhaps taking that's another department of that conversation.
Yeah.
But let's do on the activity or what the governor did, for instance. Like, perhaps there is, you are a legal practitioner, not a politician. Yeah. So let's talk to the politician, Dr. Tanko. Maybe there are some perspectives that people don't understand about what exactly happened in Kaduna State. You wanna? I'm pretty sure you have a perspective, Dr. Tanko.
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians. Permit me to condole the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the people of Kaduna in particular for the demise of the Chief of Army Staff, General Tairu, who lost his life in a very fatal accident yesterday. It was a very sad event, especially now that we are trying to continue this fight against this insurgent, and then we were hit with that situation yesterday. May his soul rest in peace. The truth about it is that there's a lot of things going on with regard to playing politics with the lives of the common man, especially the downtrodden. What happened in Kaduna some couple of days ago was a show of shame. And then we thought for us, a governor like Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who have been in the forefront of fighting for the interests of the people at a point in time. You remember with nostalgia the kind of desperate position he took as regard to the last government and how they handled issues, what his positions were. And when he came into governance, we were very, very happy, and that we were having somebody who have shown classical way of governance, especially from his actions in the FCT, apart from, of course, the way in which he handled
Dr. Tanko,
properties of individuals. Yeah.
Just 1 second. Is this suggesting that you are disappointed the way things are going now? I'll let you answer that one when we return from this break. Thank you for staying with us. Yes, Dr. Tanko, so having, laid that background, I'm just wondering, from what you're saying, it sounds like you're a little disappointed in the way things have gone so far. Yes,
especially in the human capital development, which concerns the workers and other individuals. You could recall very well, Nigeria, as rightly postulated, Kaduna is a hub of industrial development, especially in Kakuri, where you have the textile and all of them are grounded. And then the people are actually hoping that with a kind of a highly intellectual person like Malam Nasir El-Rufai, which of course we must attest to the fact that in the last few years, if you have been to Kaduna for like some years ago, if you come to Kaduna, you find it difficult to understand because Kaduna has really transformed in terms of development and roads and all. Malam has tried to make it look semi-Abuja in that regard. But in terms of that of human capital development, you may want to question some of the situations that are happening. And in fact, particularly for me, I was expecting a more a kind of a very systematic way of dealing with the issues of workers when it comes to the issue of sacking. We weren't expecting that type of sacking of workers and without due process of following the due process and making sure that the workers understand and what alternative is being provided. Already the states and especially the larger part of the north has been crying for a lot of issue of hunger, lack of work and productive activities and all. Now, for you to plunge that particular people into that particular same situation, coming from the fact that the change mantra in which you come with was on the hope that Nigerians will have, actually in Kaduna, will have a new change of life where most of those particular creative working environment will have been created. Most likely, you will see those textile companies coming back into life, new industries being built, and then that will accommodate instead of to create more jobs rather than sacking the workers, and that creates a lot of pain. And don't forget the fact that, and the process of this infrastructural development, a lot of homes were being kind of destroyed, although some payments are being made, but the process is quite cumbersome. And the people are feeling this pain as regard to how their life will be. Then there's no process as regard to how you now disengage them, and then you expect people to keep quiet. Very truly, it is disappointing in that regard. We are expecting more in the way in which such situation could have been handled. And I know he has the capacity to handle it in such a way where the people will not feel the pain and the pang. But unfortunately, they failed to react appropriately. And then it now resulted into the manner in which you approach the people, the way you speak to the people. When you are looking for their vote, you plead with them. You ask for their vote. You tell them that you are going to do A, B, C, D. You didn't tell them that you are going to destroy their homes. You didn't tell them you are going to sack them. And even when you want to sack them, you are going to explain to them how or why that particular sacking will come about. So, and then here you are now, after winning elections, the mantra changed.
So,
and then
Dr.
The manner in which you talk to them with disdain.
So for you, the problem is not the activity or the action. The problem is the process. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the process has a problem, because I'm trying to read from both sides of the art. The government is saying that they're needing money and how they are going to go about their infrastructure and development and all, and then they are thinking that the civil service is overbloated. And when some people are now saying that probably there's a way in which virtually a lot of things can be done, but we shouldn't forget that at a point in time, the major way of creating jobs for Nigerian people is the civil service. And the civil service was the only way in which jobs were being created and giving opportunity for people to work and all, to earn a living. More or less like becoming, apart from the fact that they perform, some of them perform their duty, it became a kind of employment way in which people can be engaged at a point in time.
You know what? For some people, Dr. Tanko, for some people, that one would be, that might not be, the complete position, because some would say that the job of government is not necessarily to provide employment, but to provide an enabling environment for jobs to be created by businesses. Yeah, but let me take this also to Mr. Yaito. There are those who have said, because there are so many things to cover, in this short conversation we're gonna have, but there are those who have also said that what happened in Kaduna State is just a microcosm of what is likely to happen in other states of the Federation, because as many people believe, the governors don't have so much money anymore. FAC allocation is on the low, increasingly, and NNPC is already saying, guys, let's watch it. The debate over fuel deregulation of the downstream sector is going to suck more money, so to speak, from people's hands. Tax, I don't know. So on the one hand, it will seem like the governors have a job of work on their hands. On the other hand, the people have a problem really balancing out the thinking of governors or government at various levels.
Yeah. Number one, thanks for having me. And number two, let me join my brother Tanko to express our condolences to all Nigerians on what is already described concerning the death of the Chief of Army Staff and the other 10 or so people. That said, I am concerned that we really don't understand what government and governance is all about. To me, government is the management of the resources of the people in the larger interest of the people. What that means that you must bring the most competent managers into it. Number two, I see the civil servants as engineers and the politicians as the crew in an aircraft. To that extent, you can't leave the recruitment of engineers to just provision of employment for the boys. It can't be. You need to have people who realize they have an extremely strategic role to play. The civil servants, the moment that they are not together, they are going to create an aircraft that even the best pilot will not be able to handle it. If we have that mindset and mentality, then we'll see the civil service as an extremely important, delicate, and crucial, institution, where when you come in as the crew, the pilot, you need to treat your engineers with all respect. You need to give them all their due remunerations. You need to go ahead to inspire them to do the extra checks that they don't necessarily have to do just to ensure safety. When we have this mindset, then you realize that you cannot just bring people in and make the civil service, employment generation institute or institution. And on the other hand, you cannot, as the manager of the process, in any way treat them in any way that will make them feel disenfranchised. That said, and thirdly, we must be careful to recruit competent pilots who realize that the piloting affair is a very serious business and not an enterprise where you go there because you make several hours, you are going to be giving so much money. No, you realize that the life of the nation, of the state, of the people is in your hands. So you must be with all your senses. The first problem that we have is that we've recruited a lot of incompetent crew, who are there not to pilot the affairs, but are attracted by the paraphernalia of the office. Oh, I'm a pilot, people look up to me and things like that. So we've recruited the wrong crew. Secondly, when you look at the good ones that have a good head, what Mr. Obong El Rufai tried to do is very good, extremely good. How we try to get about it is very bad, almost extremely bad. So when we have a meeting point, the civil service have to agree that we cannot spend 90% of the resources on about 3% of the people. Now that will be okay. If that 90% will now be able to bring up something else that even when you have 10, 15%, it will be able to do the work and do it extremely well. That civil service is not giving us that at all. And that problem is going to be faced by every government. And for somebody who's wanted to be a governor before, and probably may yet want again, depending on what God says, you have to really sit down and interrogate the governance process to look at the fundamentals. How do we handle the civil service such that it becomes a very professionalized service, who are paid so well that they are inspired to do the work? The moment the engineers do a fantastic work, it makes the job of the pilot much easier. So we really need to come down and, as Nigerians, know that what is happening in Kaduna is just doing press up. The bigger version, the real version, is coming to visit us. The reason is that
Kaduna is lucky in a sense to have a man. He might be rational sometimes by my own thinking, but he's a man that I believe has potentials to be one of the best governors, because he is target driven, he is focused, he has understandings, but he just might not have the wisdom. So he needs to have a group of elders, nationalists from Kaduna State, whom he relates with from time to time, who will tell him all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. This thing you want to do is very good, but think of this way of doing it. And I think that every state needs to have an orientation agency that is able to network and communicate with the people, the policies of government before they come up, so that you are able to express what you want to do, get the buy-in of the people. You are not a monarch, you are not the king, you are not the lord of the people. You are the chief servant of the people. And wisdom demands that you respect the people that gave you the job. This issue of thinking Mr. President is above all, a governor is above all, is an aberration. They are our workers, they are our boys. We pay their salary. The food they eat is from the people. So they must find themselves to be accountable to the people. And they should not sit on the high horse and look down on the people. This balance needs to be created.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ezekiel. Now, we have to manage our time, and we have so much ground to cover. I don't know how much of it we're going to be able to cover. So now that you've all had your bits about what's happening in Kaduna State, let's talk about what the southern governors said last week and the reaction of the Attorney General of the Federation. To some people, in comparing herders to spare parts dealers, he was comparing two totally dissimilar things. Because the spare parts dealers do not rent shops and not pay for them. They do not go around killing people. They do not kidnap. They do not,
and they are not nomadic.
The whole, the basis for comparison seems to be non-existent. And the southern governors have come out and said they're not going back on what they have said.
Yes. It's quite unfortunate the statement made by the Attorney General of the Federation. It is the most elementary part of legal education to say that, when it comes to issues of land, that, in Nigeria today, we have what we call the Land Use Act. And the governors of each state are the trustees of the land for the benefit of the people within the geographical area that they govern. So it's out of place for a whole Attorney General of the Federation, the Chief Law Officer of the Federation, to suggest that, there is somewhere section, I think he referred to section 41 of the Constitution, and he talked about freedom of expression, for anybody to just move from one place to the other in the name of grazing. And he says, except there is constitutional amendment, the governors can do nothing. That is not the law.
At the risk of sounding obtuse,
yes,
the Constitution says that there's freedom of movement for persons.
For persons.
Does it also guarantee the freedom of movement for cows? For cattle?
No, nothing like that.
In any form?
You have freedom to own property. Now, as you have the freedom, you must take care of that property by doing the necessary things. That is when the analogy of the spare parts sellers, dealers, and the cattle rearers, that's where they don't work. Because the spare parts dealers, wherever they are, they pay for space.
Yes.
They pay taxes. But you have cattle rearers walking from one state to the other, entering into people's farms. Now, there is something in law relating to trespass. They say, your rights end at the tip of my nose.
Where my rights begin.
Yes, where my rights begin. You can swing your arm, but the moment your arm hits my nose, that your freedom of movement ends, and you are in trouble. Now, when the Attorney General of the Federation talked about amending the Constitution, first of all, regarding this issue of cattle rearing, cattle grazing, and open grazing, I don't see any need for constitutional amendment, because the Constitution already provides for who is in charge of land. And if you want to take land from a state for any kind of business, or take it from an individual, there are processes to follow. Once you follow that process, the issue of amending the Constitution does not arise. And if there's going to be amendment of the Constitution, why now? Why are you talking of amending Constitution simply because of cattle?
Forgive me, Mr. Lady.
Yes.
I remember. Please help me remember which particular law it is where it says that if your cattle, trespasses on my property, you commit a crime.
Yes, that you see, there's something we call the rule in Relands and Fletcher. It's part of what we inherited. It simply means that if I am in my property, anything, it's not cattle, anything, your neighbor here, the neighbor to channels, if they have gas or water and they don't contain it properly and it escapes onto my land, that rule says that you are going to be responsible by necessary implication for whatever damage what has escaped from your land has caused on my land.
Yeah.
Now, linking that to cattle grazing, you can bring your cattle anywhere. Here, we are talking of reality. These animals come onto farmlands and they eat up everything.
Crops.
Now, the rule is very clear. In the realm of private property law, the farmers have every right to sue. They have every right to distrain. There's something we call distraining, meaning to impound the cattle and sell it off to realize, to take care of the damages that have been inflicted on them. But I don't, yes.
I'm going to ask you a question when we return from this break, which is about, how do the laws factor in our cultures, our traditions, our ways of life? Do the laws in any way, put that into consideration? Perhaps that's another bone of contention, but after we return from this break. Well, thanks for staying with us. It's still Sunrise. Yes, Mr. Loyede, it would seem like some laws, our laws are clear, cut and dry. This is the offense, this is the consequence. But most of the time, it would seem like, in the example that we're giving, for instance, that there are some laws that don't seem to consider our sentiments, our affiliations, our cultures, traditions, and all those things. Because, there is also that belief in some quarters that it is the nature of, herders to be nomadic. And I don't think that the laws sometimes factor that in.
Well, you see, the thing about law, is for, like we say, one of the basic definitions of law is that it's an instrument of social engineering. So that there won't be friction, there are laws. Because the culture of the Fulani man can never be the same as the culture of the Yoruba man. And so, if you are coming into my domain as a Yoruba man and you are a Fulani man, I have my culture, I'm on my land. Your culture cannot suddenly supersede, take precedence over my own. Talking in the realm of culture. So, but in order to reduce to the barest minimum the friction that can occur when there is a mix of cultures, that's why we have laws that is supposed to be general in nature. So when you come down to my domain, there is a law which is a standard that human beings all over the world are supposed to, be in tune with. When you come to, for instance, in Yoruba land, we have, let me bring it to the level of Proverbs. They say, "Mafokomi dano ijokon lomo." You don't use my farmland as path. If you stop using my farmland as pathway, it will end one day.
In other words, you've been doing it.
You've been doing it. The day it will end, I'm not going to say it with words of mouth. I probably will come with a cutlass. And that's the point we have gotten to now. The Fulanis have been with Yorubas. They have been with Igbos on their lands over the centuries.
Yeah.
We didn't have this much friction. Suddenly, why are we having friction? One, the influx of Fulanis has increased. Cattle rearers, because there is desertification up north. The desertification up north has caused a larger number of them coming down south to graze. Now, the Yorubas are predominantly farmers. When the Fulanis used to come before, they come with cattle to be sold, not to graze. Now, when you begin to now, you cannot, we are not, like she said, we are now in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Now, we cannot be we cannot be going back. Okay. When we used to have Fulanis mixed with us, rare cattle, they brought them for sale to be killed and eaten. But what they are now doing has gone beyond that. And you cannot continue to apply culture sentiment when there is law. Okay. The law must be supreme.
Okay. Dr. Tanko, some have said that indeed this is the 21st century and people are enhancing their production and things like that, making their businesses better with the use of technology and all kinds of devices. So is it not time for us to begin to look for modern solutions to this problem that we have? I mean, look at Netherlands, for instance. They are an agricultural country. So, of course, they're moving cattle up and down, but we don't see their cattle on the streets of Amsterdam, for instance, or Rotterdam.
Exactly. I subscribe to that. And that is why we should be mindful of our utterances as leaders, especially when we are trying to justify a position. Just like as was already positioned, the Attorney General statement trying to come an analogy between the headers and the spare part dealers in the South may send a wrong signal. But what, in a way, is trying to also say is this particular movement that we have these challenges of probably saying ethnic profiling. People will be thinking that because the headers are Fulanis, of course, they are being hindered from their constitutional right as regard to movement, even though some are saying that you move. I have that people say, okay, when you move with your property, so you can also protect your property as well. But the truth about it is that even the position of the southern governors, too, will have sent a wrong signal to some of our problems in the north. Because what we are saying as leaders is that when you make position of this, you have been making, okay, fine. We suffer the same problems in the north too. I've been a victim as regard to cattle coming into my farm and grazing unlawfully. You understand? So it's not as if probably it's predominant in the south. So what we would have expected, just like as you asked the question, is that provide solution. Let's say, fine, we will not allow this particular grazing because it's causing a lot of problem in the particular areas of our domain. You can't come into my farm and then eat my crops and all. No. But what we will do is that as governors and as Nigerians, we are thinking that this is a business, a personal business. We are providing a particular piece of land, even though some people will kick against it, that they are giving their lands to some people. No, this is a business entity. The government has given land to those who want to run business. If you want to have your cattle in that domain, you must go into this particular area and you must pay this particular fine and particular fee so that you can maintain your cattle and possibly graze in that particular area. That is if it has to come. That is providing an alternative. That will show that all of us are thinking in a different direction. Now, I give you a simple example of what happened in Jigawa State. I get pain because over the years, we have a particular place in Jigawa there that is predominantly for cattle sales, and it's been there in hundreds of years, and the same place remains the way it is. That is a huge way in making money. Only if the governor can really get into it. You can build abattoir in this particular area, dairy product. You can build places where they can sell hides and skins. Even the horns of the cattle. It's money. So to me, it's about the northern governors now taking reward, which I make this position known in a program in Kano State, my state, where I was asked to present a statement on it. And I was happy that the governor of a big planning header should come home, come back to the north. We have places for you. Let us now turn those particular places into a business-making machine where money can be made, just like other countries who depend on it. One of our brothers,
yeah, Dr. Tanko,
talking about cattle money.
Yeah, one of the concerns that a number of people have had over this particular issue is every governor in Nigeria has already said that open grazing is no longer the way to go. It was last year, I think, that the northern governors themselves all came together and say, open grazing is outdated, it is unsustainable, and we should find another alternative altogether. And it was about the same last year that the National Livestock Transformation Plan came up. And, you know, the federal government has said every state that is interested should sign up. Part of what the southern governors have also said in an interview with us, you know, we hosted the governor of Ondo State who said they are also going to go to, you know, have this conversation further with the federal government. So, Mr. Yetok, let me ask you this. Since all the governors in Nigeria have said open grazing is outdated, one of the questions that I've been asking over and over again is that we had more than 400 grazing reserves in the north that have all either gone comatose or not, you know, there any longer. And what the governor of Ondo State said was that those grazing reserves, even in Ondo State, in Oyo State, the Fashola Farm, for instance, were all abandoned. And the thinking now is everyone should go back to the farm so that we can do better with it. So the question that I'd like to put to you now is, how do you expect governments at the federal and state levels should go about this matter, especially of livestock? It's a 30 trillion naira business, according to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. What is stopping us from looking at the economic value as opposed to the sentimental value?
Thanks again. Wonderful question. I will always come to where I always start. We need to understand that governance is very serious business that should be limited to people who understand why they get into the office and what is expected of them. That's number one. Within that context, if I was a governor, the first thing I'll ask myself is that this problem presents an opportunity. Does that opportunity fit into my sphere of influence? In Akwa Ibom, my first answer would be no. The reason is that the whole of Akwa Ibom is probably the size of one or two local governments in a place like Niger State. We're a very small state, very small. So my concentration will not be that of cattle rearing. If I'm to do that, I have to do a very specialized form of it that is going to be real high yield and highly mechanized and everything. So I will not be too much in a hurry to fit into that program. But there are other states that have humongous amount of land. What they need to do, secondly, is let the federal government, forget about all these livestock transformation programs and things like that, where the people don't really believe. It's like, look, you want to bring Ruga back the back door. Let the central bank call specialists and put up these incentives of people who want to get into cattle rearing business. Okay? This is not the issue of, oh, it is our trade, our tradition. No. It's just like spare parts. Not only Igbos, but the question is, can you get into the spare parts business? One or two Yoruba people are doing spare parts, and I lived in Lagos for about 30 years. I can tell you that. But you know that they don't really have the skills, the Igbos predominantly. So why don't we just come together as a nation and say this business should be encouraged? Federal government, all the governors say, take some money from us because we are a people, we are a nation. These are our brothers and sisters. Take some money from us, get a policy. Let's get to Sambisa Forest. That forest that has been such a nightmare to us, let us, those stones, turn them into stepping stones. If we are honest, if we are sincere, enter Sambisa Forest. Central bank governor, federal government, the governors forum, put some infrastructure, first-class facilities in that Sambisa Forest. By so doing, you don't go fighting for land when we have a large amount of land, unless, of course, you know something that I don't know. Secondly, you know, we have relative peace in the South-South. What people don't know is that we, the leaders and elders in the South-South, when there were those militant problems and everything, there was a very, very large, understandable amount of discontentment by the people who were fishermen. They said the oil is spoiling. We told them, look, this oil exploration is not going to be something that's going to come pass easily. You know, I know you've been fishermen all your lives, but we have a problem. Can we just think in terms of alternate trade you can get into? That's why we're able to talk to our people to now start coming, you know, leaving the coastlands to come into land and try to see to what extent they could get into farming, get into other forms of trade and everything. We, the elders of the Niger Delta, did this without people knowing. And this narrative is not always brought out. I think that our Fulani sisters and brothers need to call their people and talk to them that, look, we can't be seen as a problem of the nation. We have a problem, the certification, the climate change and everything, but we cannot now say, let's go into people's farms. It doesn't make sense. I will be one of those from the south that will be one of their cheerleaders, one of those that will carry the placard, one of those that will go round the nooks and crannies and talk to governors, to bring that special provision so that these people are settled. And let me end on this note. You see, when you see it coming and you pretend it's not coming, when it comes, you'll have no one but yourselves to blame. And I feel really pained about the Fulanis of Nigeria. These people are have been the most trustworthy people, and I can tell you that with empirical evidence. Everybody wants Malam to be in their gates. These are Fulanis. These people are very honest, they are very trustworthy, they are very gentle, they are very kind, they've been with us for ages. And now, they are becoming the butt of all this, what's going on, because a group of Fulanis that are militant, that take no prisoners, that are conscienceless, they are rapists, they are murderers, have come in and even conquered them, the Nigerian Fulanis. And then they've turned around to stigmatize all the Fulanis. And you think it's okay because the president is a Fulani. For goodness sake, Mr. President is not going to be a Fulani all his life, or not going to be a president all his life. And when he leaves office, how is Nigerians going to network with their Fulani brother? This profiling, and that is not okay by me. It's not okay because the Fulanis of Nigeria expression are being disenfranchised.
Okay, thank you very much, Ezekiel. Well, I'll just take these two tweets quickly before we close. Most states in Nigeria will soon be bankrupt if they don't downsize their bloated, unproductive civil service. There should be redundancy packages in place for all workers who are disengaged. And Festus Akimboyewa says, I have seen herdsmen carrying AK-47s, but I have never seen any spare parts dealer carrying AK-47. So the two are incomparable.
Or any gun at all? I haven't seen one.
Any gun of any shape or form. Thank you very much. Let me start with our virtual guests. Ezekiel Inya Etuk, founder, Nigeria First Initiative. Dr. Yunusa Tanko, chairman, National Conscience Party. And we had in the studio Mr. John Oloyede, a legal practitioner. Thank you very much for coming to share your insights with us on this very important issue. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Make sure you join us.
Well, thanks for staying with us. So let's take a look at the Centralized Equipment Identity Registrar, which is also known as Device Management System. Sometimes this thing sounds so convoluted, right? What does it really mean? You saw that message out, or you may have, and it concerns quite a number of millions of Nigerians, who have SIM cards and phones and all of that. That you need to bring your phone in, and then we hear, okay, you don't need to bring your phone in to get your IMEI number. What does all of that mean? You're no expert, are you? You're just a phone user.
Good Lord.
That's it. Well, we have three gentlemen.
It took years for me to know what my IMEI was to start with. Then I found that it was actually contained in the phone.
It took you years?
Yes. GSM came to Nigeria in 2000, 2001, I don't think I heard about IM till maybe 6 years later. But then I don't claim to be tech savvy. I am not. I am analog. Please. I went to school in the 60s.
You remind me of one of my...
There were no computers in my time.
Oh, there were. Just that there were one small computer that could process 1 megabyte could be this big. As big as the studio. But we have a few gentlemen to help us look at these issues this morning. Let me begin with the ones that I have in the studio. Mr. Yele Okeremi is Chief Executive Officer, Precise Financial Systems Limited. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Mr. Olaiwola Onofo is Chief Executive Officer, Dufotech Consult Limited. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And joining us virtually is the President, Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria, ATCON, Ikechukwu Namani. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Yeah, so, but let me begin from here in the studio. Well, Mr. Kiremi, on the one hand, the information was put out there. And part of the objectives, according to the information put out initially, was to generate revenue. But before we go there,
Excuse me.
better.
I'm sorry.
Before we go there, what is this DMS about, this device management system?
Well, thank you very much. When I received the call yesterday, incidentally, it was a busy day for me. I read it in the papers too. And my first reaction, and I think I'm vindicated now, is to say, I don't believe it. I don't believe governments would have done that. However, having said that, I know the bar is really low, in Nigeria today. By the number of policies that have been brought in recent times have been well criticized, and even I criticized some of them. But my first action would have been to call the minister himself. There's no point talking about these things when he's a phone call away from me and have these conversations. But it was a busy day for me, and I did not do so. And then this morning I saw that there's a rebuttal from NCC. But having said that, so it means that I don't think they will do it. They may try to do it, but I don't think they will do it. However, I don't think it makes sense to ask people to register IMEI, because I tried to read the reasoning. So you say for security, and you say to generate funds. I don't understand how you want to generate funds, because to my mind, that is more like milking people. If you ask me to come and pay for what service are you offering?
No, pay to register my IMEI or what? What are they going to ask us to pay for?
So if you say you want to generate money, it doesn't make sense to me. Because are you asking me as a Nigerian citizen, you want to tax the fact that I have a phone, because it's an indirect tax. But again, if somebody is thinking that way, it shows perhaps the person is not able to articulate smarter ways where nations create wealth. Because ordinarily, there are smarter ways that nations could create wealth. And this country potentially is extremely rich, and actually kinetically could be a lot richer than we are. And we are actually suffering from poverty as a result of a lot of inconsistent policies at government level that should have been congruent with wealth creation. Albeit, if you want to talk about even security and tracking of phones, again, even at that level, it still doesn't make sense to me. And I'm happy the NCC has denied it, and I hope it remains so. And I'll tell you why it still doesn't make sense to me. Because ordinarily speaking, there's a simple protocol that happens. Anytime you switch on your mobile phone, new, old, the SIM card negotiates with the phone. That's why that SIM card has a chip in it. It negotiates with the phone. And then the phone negotiates with the nearest cell tower to it. And part of the information that is exchanged at that particular point in time is a whole lot. So that's why they can actually track your location, because it's a function of which cell tower is close to you. And part of the information that's exchanged, actually, the SIM card having negotiated with your phone knows the IMEI. And that IMEI is registered on the network. So if you say you want to block stolen phones, which is okay, it's as simple as, and it's already happening. All you need to do is report the IMEI, and they hotlist it. And once they hotlist it, then anytime it tries to register on the network says no.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Onofo a basic question. We're talking IMEI. What does that mean? The Nigerian out there would like to know, what is the IMEI and where is it?
Okay. The IMEI is described in terms of definition as the International Mobile Equipment Identity. That might sound also a bit lengthy.
It is.
But in layman's term, it is the identity or the name for your phone. It is the fingerprint. It is the DNA.
Okay, so every phone has a name.
Unique.
A
the
unique.
Keyword, unique IMEI.
In layman's words.
Which means
a unique name.
A unique name.
So my phone may be called Shade and your own is Tunde.
No, it's 15 digits.
It doesn't matter.
15-digit name.
It doesn't matter. That's the name of that particular phone. And no two phones have the same name.
So it goes beyond the name. It is the DNA or the fingerprint of that device. Good. So it says that this device is a unique, and the word unique means one.
There's only one in
only
this world.
One in the world that is of that particular IMEI. So that is the identity that is given to every phone that is manufactured legally.
Okay. So how does a subscriber access his IMEI?
Oh, it's very simple. There are several ways. One physical way is on the box of your phone. There's a label there that has the IMEI. That's one. If you're able to take out the battery of your phone, because most phones nowadays, smartphones, don't allow for you to open it up.
Yeah, true.
So for those that you can open up, once you open up the battery compartment, you would also see the IMEI there.
Okay.
Another way is...
For the smartphone?
For smartphone, for analog phone, for any phone. So everyone at home right now, you can do *#06#. So long as as soon as you do the last hash, you would see your IMEI come up. *#06#. Now, to do this, you don't even need to have a SIM card in that phone.
Okay.
Just do it, and that instruction will pull out the IMEI of your device on your screen.
Okay.
So you would see that on your screen. So you can try that. It gives you IMEI. You might see two IMEIs if your phone is a dual SIM. As I said, it is a unique number to a particular phone. But phones that have dual SIM capabilities would show you the two different IMEIs of your phone.
I don't get that. Now I'm confused. I have one phone.
Yes.
That has two SIMs.
Yes.
And it will give me two names.
Yes.
For
that
one
same phone.
Device, one phone.
Yes. So you have a woman with twins.
Oh.
They have different names. So that's the best way I can.
Oh my God!
I can simplify.
Okay,
but it's the same device.
Yes, it is the same device. But because there is an opportunity for two SIM cards to operate in that device, it is going to allocate two different IMEIs.
So that's why this image also has two IMEIs.
Absolutely. Okay. So you see IMEI 1 and IMEI 2. That shows you that phone is a dual SIM phone.
96001, 96019. Okay.
Well, Mr. Namani, to the issue of the notice put out and the rebuttal, some would say there is no smoke without fire. For the notice to have come out in the first place, it's been flagged in their minds, some would say in the spirit, that something is about to happen. I think Mr. Okeremi also, you said they might try, so that's kind of a flag. What's this? And the hypothesis, the conspiracy theories may not end unless there are clear communication from the authorities.
Thank you so much. I think the authority, the Nigerian Communication Commission, already addressed this through their press release yesterday. Now, let's don't, as you rightly said, I think this is being, in my opinion, overblown because of so many conspiracy theories that goes on around, right? What the regulator said, which was also contained in the new SIM card registration policy, is that there's going to be a device database system, okay, which is a database that would contain every device being used in the country in one central database. Information available to me is that is still going to happen. Okay, the creation of that database is still going to happen because there are a lot of benefits to having that database. NCC clearly stated all the benefits, even in their press release. Topmost on it is to fight against phone theft, where somebody can just steal a phone, remove the SIM card, sell it, another person picks it up, puts a new SIM card and continue to use it. Now, if a phone is reported stolen, and there's a central database that report goes to, whoever stole that phone will not be able to use it without being blocked or identified. That is the way to stop the phone theft side of it, which has a lot of benefit. The second is with security. They kidnap you, they take your phone, they remove the SIM card, they can even put a different SIM card and start calling. Now, this will also help to deal with that. So I'm trying to separate the creation of the database, which is important and is needed, from the issue of how does the database get populated. The problem was probably because of the issue with SIM registration. Once people saw that the database was to be created, they went on with the comment that, oh, everybody still needs to go and register to have this done. Nobody needs to register. This is done automatically. As a matter of fact, every network operator today, as was explained in the earlier comment, can access your number. So they don't even need you to do anything. It's just that all that number will now be put in a central database using blockchain technology so that a phone can have its own unique identity, and that identity remains with the original owner of the phone. That is really what we are trying to create here, or what is being created. And let me give some historical background because I've been around the industry for many, many years. People don't know this, but probably more than 10 years ago, the regulator actually licensed a company to provide this service. I know that very well. Unfortunately, the licensee or the promoter of this project, he lost his life. I believe that was why this project never happened many years ago. So this is not an initiative that is coming from this government. People may not know because it's not being put in the public. I'm very much aware that more than 10 years ago, somebody was licensed to offer this kind of service. The main reason at that time was to fight against phone theft and to be sure that once a phone is declared missing, there should be a way to blacklist it, or a phone is used for committing crime, there should be a way to blacklist that phone and by default be able to trace whoever decides to use that phone and work backwards doing forensic audit to identify who has committed crime. It was purely based on fraud and security at that time. Now, if the reason have changed, is subject to review, but I'm trying to explain that there is a historical part of this that many people may not be aware of.
Mr. Nnamani, if the NCC wants IMEIs of all phone subscribers, all they have to do is collect them from the networks, because the networks have that information already.
And that's what we are saying. That's what I'm trying to clarify. That the confusion, I don't know where that came from. The fact that people were told they need to go and register, I don't know where that information came from, but that was the first information. That information, wherever it originated from, was not accurate. And the regulator has clarified that that information was not accurate, because it doesn't need to happen. People don't need to go register or submit it for the database.
I have to stay with you now. You're talking about security reasons and all that. Kidnappers use cell phones to call relations and whatever to ask for ransom. We have not heard of anybody who's been arrested for using a phone to ask for ransom in any kidnap case. So what exactly is the point of all this?
Let me, again, I guess that's probably going to be a separate subject matter on another day. But believe me, the security agencies do actually pick up kidnappers after they've done forensic analysis of the case. Some of this is not in the public domain, but if you actually, I would probably recommend in another section that this should be addressed, including the security agencies giving some records of successes that have been achieved when a forensic review is done, and most times the network operators assist in ensuring that this happens. So I want to put that on the record because there's this misconception that there's nothing being done and there's no solution. There is some solution. It's not at the level we hope it should be. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. There's still so much that needs to go into that. One is being able to identify that somebody has been kidnapped or where the person is being held. The second is being able to rescue or initiate the security mechanism that such a person will be rescued with. That is totally different from telecom. It now has to do with national security, and I believe people with the right criteria should be able to address what they are doing with that. But believe me, from the telecom side, whatever is needed to address some of these can be provided.
Well, Mr. Kerami, it would sound like, I mean, while he was talking, you had some reservations.
I have reservations about everything he said. Listen, look, I mean, we are not fools in this country. If you want to award frivolous contracts, go ahead and do it. You don't have to explain to us you are in power. But certain things cannot sit down with me. Look, I hold a doctorate degree, for example. I mean, why would you tell you want to have a database of which country does that? I never said it. The database is available at any point in time. Actually, you can get it even in historical perspective. That any phone that registers even once on any network, you have the database. But if you want to do political favors to your friends and cronies, give silly contracts, and then you write a memo justifying security generation of funds, doesn't make sense. The honest truth is that, I mean, I can understand how government works. So somebody's already writing a memo that will go to Federal Executive Council and is trying to justify it to me, but it doesn't sit down well with me. I'm a software engineer. The moment any device connects to the network is there. It's a standard procedure.
That is why sometimes your device will tell you, okay, you receive automatic
down settings, configuration settings. That's how it works. Then, secondly, you say for stolen phones, it still doesn't make sense. Today, anywhere in the world, if you report a stolen phone to the GSM, they can block it. Yeah. Then you are talking about knowing locations because they could use. If this doesn't look, I have experienced it before. I had my driver kidnapped sometime last year. My driver was kidnapped in Ugeli. And within hours, the DSS was able to tell me where they were. They said they knew, they sent me the location, that this is where they are. It's ABC technology. But what then did they do? The people in the Sambisa forests, and all they said they know where they are. Look, guys, let's get real and face real serious issues that develop nations. Perhaps this doesn't make sense.
Perhaps one other serious issue here is one of the reasons, even in that rebuttal, and you probably have seen it as well, that part of the reason this whole thing is even being initiated is to discourage counterfeit devices in the country. The question that came to my mind is, so how did they get in the country in the first place?
First of all, what's the definition of counterfeit devices? Because look, every construct needs to be clearly defined. What does counterfeit mean? So if I do Samsung and I brand and I say I do a phone somewhere and I brand it Samsung, is that what makes it counterfeit? The fact is simple. Does it work? You go to other countries, even China that you talk about. They manufacture Nike. They have other brands that are equivalent. And I don't want to go there. But even these conversations we are having about IMEI and stuff like that, they are what we call firmware. And just like some folks rightly said, this firmware, when you have people who understand it, can actually compromise at the end of the day. Look, these conversations, and these are the kind of things that exasperate Nigerians. We spend time talking about non-issues when other nations are discussing very serious issues that are going to 30-year horizons. We are discussing pedestrian issues around here. And that's the point I see. It's upsetting.
Mr. Nafoko, clearly, even in the light of the NCC's rebuttal, questions on the minds of a number of people would be of trust. When most of the time when people hear, about certain policies of government, this is what you need to do, that's what you need to do. The fact that they know that government has these information about their devices, some would be very, very uncomfortable with it, especially in the light of distrust over the years. What would you be telling people about that?
Well, the issue around trust of the Nigerian government is not something that started today. Yeah. It's something that's been there for many, many years.
Many years.
If the government doesn't change and start, imbibing that element of trust in Nigerians, it will continue, and it will go beyond this sector. It will go into, any sector, into a way of life. So the issue of trust is a thing that the government really, really needs to work on. But as regards this whole issue around the IMEI, what I'll say to Nigerians out there is, if they need to have this information, there are ways of getting this information. Like my co-panelist said regarding his kidnapped driver, the DSS were able to get that information. They can't get that information whichever way from the operators. But I am certain that there is a process for getting this information. The operator will not release information to government without a proper documentation, either a police report or some sort of security report requesting for information on that particular line. And this is something that happens on a daily basis. Operators get this request every time when there's an investigation. So in terms of the government knowing information about where a particular person is, who they're calling, who is calling them, where they go to, they can get those information from the operators, but this has to be done legally. And I know that is currently ongoing. So in terms of that trust, there's a legal process for the government to get this information.
Let me piggyback on the question I asked the other time about, discouraging kidnapping with technology. If indeed, I have no doubt, no reason to disbelieve Dr. Okeremi here of his experience. If indeed this thing works, how come kidnapping is still so high?
Well, it does work. As Mr. Nnamani also said, and Dr. Okeremi also said, yes, they actually catch the culprits. But the issue is not that. The issue is there are more people that have decided that kidnapping is a lucrative business. And they rush into it. You're asking a question, why is it still prevalent? It is prevalent because more and more people are going into that line of business. If a tanker falls, and it's leaking PMS, petrol, people know it's dangerous.
But they still go.
But they still go. People, kidnappers know that, yes, we can be caught. They can track us, but they still do it. So this is now this discussion for probably systemic issues that we're facing as a country.
Okay, Mr. Namani, Larry Dewu is asking a question. Is NCC aware that there are now applications that can change IMEI? How do they intend to handle that? First of all, is it possible to change IMEI?
It's not possible to change IMEI. We need to be careful when we make some of this analysis, okay? It's like saying, is it possible to change your DNA? You can fake it, you can create a fake version of it, you know, but that doesn't mean you have changed it. We need to be careful because all this is technology stuff, right? So number one is, if you look at, even with SIM card, the evolution of SIM card, we now have what is called virtual SIM card. It's no longer the physical one that most of us are used to, right? So the virtual one is keyed into your phone itself, and you just activate it. So different people can use it, but activate it. That is different. And we need to, so what I'm saying basically is that if somebody changes it, then that is already a red flag. That automatically triggers a red flag that something is wrong. It's like somebody hacking into your system, ransomware and the rest of it. It doesn't mean it cannot be done, but there it is the red flag. Somebody should trigger that something has gone wrong when that happens.
Okay. Dr. Karim, want to respond to that?
I mean, well, see, I mean, we can use semantics to say whether you are faking or whatever. The question is very straightforward. When you make an inquiry, because it's a protocol, when the switch makes an inquiry, what's your IMEI? The phone responds. And once the phone responds, there's an acknowledgement, and that ends the transaction. And to the extent, that's why you say you cannot change it, you can fake it, whatever you call it. The point is that that number that is presented to the switch can be changed.
It can't be changed.
It can be changed.
It can be changed, okay.
It can be changed.
How?
And so,
who changes it?
I mean, I've said who did it in the first instance? It's human beings. Human beings created it. So I mean, there's a way we say it in Yoruba land. That is the person that did the pencil, that did the eraser. What are we discussing? This is straightforward. So, I mean, I'm going to disagree with certain notions. Let's get real with real serious issues. To say it cannot be changed is not correct.
Okay. Mr. Anafawa, this person is being very, I think, cynical. Righteousness exalts a nation, or para earnest. The safety of my phone does not concern government. Why does government want me to register my phone?
So first things first, the government has said they do not want you to register your phone.
Because your phone is already registered with the network you are linked to.
Exactly. So, I mean, all your information is sitting with the network. And the network is protecting your information as per your rights.
Yeah, but if NCC should ask for it,
now
will the network not give it to them?
The NCC, for them to ask for it, the NCC as an entity cannot ask for it. They would have to go to a security agency to get a report and to say these are the reasons why we need this customer's information.
Okay.
Even as a citizen, and I want to, I suspect you of, calling me and trying to defraud or, if I need to build a case against you and to get information about you from the operator, I cannot go to the operator. I have to go to law enforcement, state my case.
Okay.
They would now be the ones to say, give us that information.
Another question for you before we close with Mr. Namani. Uche says, what is the advice for people who gift their old phones to others in terms of security of this IMEI, which is linked to the original owner or buyer of the phone? Is it possible to transfer the IMEI to the person who the phone is now gifted to?
Well, by automation, the IMEI is transferred. So if I give you my phone, what happens is once you put your SIM card in that phone, the operator you are using links your SIM card with the IMEI and all the other details.
Does it automatically erase from yours?
It will not erase. Now, if we're on the same network, for example, take any of the network, and I used it, and I took out my SIM card, and I gave you my phone, and you put your SIM card on it, what the operator would see, they would see historical data to see the several SIM cards on their own network that has used that IMEI at any point in time. So it comes with stamp, date stamp. So I see MSISDN1 has used it between so date and so date. MSISDN2 has used it between. So that information is available to the operator.
Oh. There's a lot of information, but and this is definitely a start.
It's clearer.
We have to continue it, but for now, we have to thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of our conversation this morning. Mr. Ike Chukwunamani is President of the Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria, ATCON. He joined us virtually. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts. Yeah, Mr. Olawola Onofwakon is CEO, Dufotech Consult Limited. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
As well as Dr. Yele Okeremi, CEO, Precise Financial Systems Limited. I still didn't get to ask you that financial question, but maybe another time. Thank you very much for your time.
Always a pleasure.
So, Sunrise returns for another conversation in a mo. Please stay with us.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Before we begin to talk biodiversity, should you wish to find out what your IMEI is, this is how you get it. *#06#. *#06#. Right, Ayo?
Yes, I will do that later. But do I need the number?
You don't. What do you need the information for?
To get money from you or something?
No, you can't get money from me. Your network already has the information. So that if you lose your phone and you call them that you've lost your phone, they can identify which particular phone you're talking about.
Oh.
And be able to block it.
So in case you have used diverse phones. Oh, diversity.
Biodiversity. Not diversity. Biodiversity. Good morning, Ayo.
Okay, yes. Good morning.
Welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you. It's International Day of Biodiversity, a day set aside to raise awareness about biodiversity issues and increasing understanding. I'm sure you're wondering, what is this? I'm not the one that answered the question. We have a couple of gentlemen with us in the studio now, and another will be joining us soon enough. Peter Knight is Executive Director, Wild Aid. He joins us this morning. Thank you, as well as Joseph Onoja, Technical Director, Nigeria Conservation Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. First of all, before you go to International Day of Biodiversity, what is biodiversity?
Thank you.
It sounds like a social studies question, but for God's sake, who knows?
Well, biodiversity is the short form of biological diversity.
What is this diversity in all of this?
Yes, so I'm coming to that. So biology is just life on Earth. And the diversity part of it is the fact that the life on Earth is very diverse. Sometimes we humans think that we are the only living organisms on Earth.
Well, because everything else is under us.
Yes, everything, yes, surrounding us. Not doing that, I used to say that we are the least equipped to live on Earth because we are the most delicate. We think that we are the superior because of the intelligence we have. But some of this intelligence even is because we can control others. If not, we are the least equipped. So we are part of a major biological entities that we have here on Earth. So because they are diverse, and that's what we call biological diversity.
Who are these other co-tenants?
You talk about from the least microbes to the giant elephants and the whales that you see. So there we are, and we are all interconnected. So nature has created a balance so that we all exist in a balance. And that is why we need to create that consciousness that we are not alone. We are not just, it's not the biological unison, it's biological diversity. We are very diverse, yes, in different forms.
And this is all about us coexisting
in a balance,
beneficially together.
Exactly.
And giving everybody
their own time, their own space to live.
Okay.
And you know what? If that balance is distorted, humans are the ones who suffer most. So we need to state that very clearly.
Humans are also the ones who can affect that balance.
Exactly.
Oh dear.
Exactly.
Oh dear. So
I think of biodiversity almost like our immune system, right? So if we have a lot of diversity and we get hit by something, then we have a lot of different antibodies that can fight against it. And the less biodiversity you have, the more vulnerable you are to something like a disease outbreak, to a drought or something like that. So it's really important, not just for the health of the animals and the wildlife, but our own health. I mean, we have to think of it as one system. There's a thing now called One Health.
I don't think the understanding of what biodiversity is, is even well known.
No.
Because, I mean, you just talked about microbes and all those things. I did a crazy search one day online of how many cells are in the human body. Guess what I found? 37.2 trillion cells in my body. 37.2 trillion cells.
It's mind-blowing. And then you think about the diversity of life on the planet. And something that always amazes me is we are not aware yet of life outside this planet. And yet we have an abundance of it.
Are we coming aware
the one on Earth?
No, we're not. And but this is perhaps the most precious resource in the entire universe. And we're squandering it, and we're destroying it, and we're damaging it by our careless actions.
So now
we're damaging ourselves at the same time.
Thank you. So that question now, how do we damage? What kind of consciousness do people need to have about biodiversity? Thank you very much. Biodiversity, on its own. What kind of consciousness do we all need to have? And is it peculiar to a certain set of people and not to others?
Everybody affects biodiversity in different ways, whether it's directly by perhaps eating an animal, in the bushmeat trade, which is unsustainable, or whether, when we add to the climate, our impact on climate when we go in a vehicle, that has an impact on biodiversity too. And human beings have not been very good about, protecting biodiversity. We're getting a little bit better in some areas, but our impact on the planet is getting more and more. So really, in everybody's day-to-day life, are there ways that you don't have to consume resources to help? Is there little ways you can save and help? That's what we can all do to help biodiversity.
Nice, you just touched a raw nerve
exactly,
when you mentioned bushmeat.
Please, we're going to have to decrypt that in a short while. But we have the founder of Lufasi Park, and who is also an environmentalist, Ambassador Desmond Majakodumi, also joins us virtually this morning. Well, thank you for joining us. Well, most certainly, what we are talking about here would look like, will sound like some PhD level talk, biodiversity. Well, these gentlemen have tried to explain it. One of them even touched on our bushmeat. But could you decrypt further for better understanding what people need to know as basic as possible about biodiversity and how we should respect it on a daily?
Yes, that's we really need to look at that. And, being very religious and God-fearing people here in Nigeria, we can actually refer to our scriptures and the way the whole life came to us. And there's so much diversity within the creation process. Now, whether this creation process was over a very, very, very long span of time, as science seems to indicate, or maybe a little bit shorter, that's not even the point. The reality is that within the creation, there are so many different aspects because it's a building of a life support system. And in any building, just your studio, you have different aspects. You have your foundation, you have your beams. Inside the beams, you have steel, you have concrete, you have gravel, you have wood. You have so many different aspects just for a small building, let alone for the very life support systems that humanity depend on entirely. You have different aspects. And that is what the biodiversity is all about. But the reason why you have people, those two guests in your studio, who are, highly intelligent people, these are people who understand many things, and they are dedicating their lives to the preservation and the protection of biodiversity because they understand how much damage we human beings have done to this biodiversity. Remember, we said it's our life support system. And we are damaging it almost beyond a state of possible repair. So our attitudes must change. We must have far, far more reverence to these wonderful, what I call the miracles of creation. Today, we're celebrating World Biodiversity Day. Tomorrow, we're going to be celebrating World Turtle Day. If you know what just that turtle can do, a turtle that will be hatched on Lekki Beach, right here in Lagos, okay? And it goes into the sea, it swims around for 3-4 years, goes across to America. Guess what? It comes back to the same Lekki Beach and hatches more eggs again. And in the process between it going and coming back, it's done so many good things within the environment, wonderful things that help to maintain a balance in the seas. You know, we must protect, we must really have full reverence for the wonderful miracles of creation, which are expressed as biodiversity. So I hope Alara understands that. Bushmeat, you don't do.
I don't do bushmeat. Yeah, talking about bushmeat, Dr. Naja. I mean, how are you going to take this message to Nigerians? Some of them eat nothing but bushmeat because they say it is healthy. They don't trust the beef that you get in the market. They don't trust the pork and all that. So this, for me, is a hard sell. And it's your job to tell Nigerians to stop eating bushmeat because of the work that those animals do in the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is where it comes in. You know, these things have been in existence even before this present generation. If the people who were before us consumed the way we are consuming, you know, everything we talk about is sustainably. We're not talking about sustainably. And there are some, because we have driven down their population, they have now been enlisted what we call the IUCN Red List to be endangered. So what that means is that we have been consuming them unsustainably. If we were consuming them sustainably, then they will continue. Now, sustainably simply means I will eat today, I will eat tomorrow. But let's ask ourselves, the rate at which we are eating today, are we going to be able to eat tomorrow? Now, when you talk about the bushmeat that we are talking about, this bushmeat, for instance, people like eating pangolins. And when you remove pangolins from the environment, it's been shown that one pangolin saves a forest as large as 30 football fields in a year because they consume over 70 million ants and termites. So if you remove a single pangolin, imagine the destruction that will happen to the forest. And what happens is that when these ants and termites, when they are prevalent, what happens? We will not be able to live where we are living. Yeah, because they will sack us from our environment. So that's just an example. And then they play different parts in the ecosystem. No, the thing that we should be talking about is sustainably. But you go in there, in those days where hunters normally have their rules. Number one, you don't kill a pregnant female. You don't kill a juvenile. Because those are the ones that will sustain the population. But now everybody goes in there and wipes out a whole family. And you expect to find there tomorrow? And that is one aspect. Now talk about the zoonosis you are talking about. What? The health component, the zoonotic diseases, where the transfer of diseases from the animal population into the human population. So these are all the things that we continue to bring to people's awareness.
I think many people don't understand that most of the deadly diseases that human beings have originally came from animals. And many of them we caught when we domesticated animals. So when we had chickens and pigs and we brought them into our families and our houses around, we got a lot of these diseases. So the most likely source of a new disease now is from wild animals. And not when they're in the wild. If they're in the bush, it's fine. But if you take them, you transport them, you trap them, you stress them, that's when these diseases can jump. And they can jump from one species to another. So with coronavirus right now, the current theory is it was originated in horseshoe bats, and somehow it got to human beings. And the pangolin is one of those species which might have been the vector in between. So there are approximately 600 to 800,000 viruses out there in the wild. And in the wild, they don't bother us, they're safe, there's no problem. But when we go to remote areas, particularly areas that have been deforested, that people weren't in before, we take these animals out, and guess what? 12 hours later, they're being sold in a Lagos market, right in a city of 22 million people. And this is the deadly danger of zoonotic disease. So this is another reason to avoid bushmeat.
Okay, I'm not going there yet. But let me ask you this. Interestingly, your first name is Peter.
Peter, yep.
Makes you Christian. And the three of you, you have Desmond, you have Joseph, and Peter. So I'm going to go to your Bible.
Okay.
It says somewhere there, it sounds like we're not even supposed to be eating meat.
I'm not sure it goes that far, but tell me a thing. It would be good for the planet to eat less meat, that's for sure. Less meat would be good for the planet.
Because it says, I've given you seed-bearing plants and trees for your food.
Yeah.
That's all I have here.
Yeah.
And
It doesn't say meat.
I haven't seen the meat part of it. Is that in any way suggesting that, maybe we should moderate our nutrition as a people? In what way will that help the message of biodiversity?
Well, one of the big impacts that meat production has is it has a very high carbon footprint, particularly beef. And so as you go down, beef uses a tremendous amount of water resources for a pound of beef. A tremendous amount of land needs to be used. A lot of vegetables that we could eat directly have to go through a cow, and it's not a very efficient way of getting that nutrition, right? You look at that. And also, cows are very good at exuding gas from both ends.
Okay.
And that I won't go any further into that, but that is also an issue.
I don't think you should even go any further. I don't think you should even go any further at all right now. But, Mr. Naja, this message of biodiversity, something that you all in the industry, in the environment have also put out to us, is that 80%, I saw a figure here now, as many as 80% of people living in rural areas in developing countries rely on traditional plant-based medicines for basic health care. Now, you cited an instance the other time of the sustainability of these things. On the one hand is the challenge of sustainability. On the other hand is the ever-growing population. Where's the balance?
Yeah, and that is where we are struggling. If left alone, the local communities, they knew how to do these things, and that was why you have things like evil forests, evil groups, and so on. That's only the high priest that goes in. Yes, they call it evil forest to scare people to go in there, but it's only the high priest that goes in there to go and select some very nice herbs and come out and do it. Now, with population, we are losing some of the values.
We're losing some of the evil forests.
Yeah, we become aware that maybe some of those things are not how it is, and then people are more. We are chasing money, and the bad thing about this is, let me give an example. If you have a watershed, a forest that serves as a watershed, it's controlling the flow of your stream, giving you fresh water. You go in there, you destroy your forest. Now you have flooding. You have landslide. Your forest, your stream is dried up. Now the money you so-called got when you sold off all of these things, you are still using the money, plowing it back, which would not be as efficient as the way nature has placed it.
Isn't it amazing how all this is interconnected, but it is not obvious?
No. And that is where we try to create the awareness. And that is why this year's theme is that we are part of the solution.
Now, Mr.
Wow.
We have gotten this far. Modernization, development, globalization seems to have ebbed away at the natural course of things. Is there a pathway back to nature?
There has to be. There has to be. Because we, as a species, have reached a turning point. We have. There's no doubt about it. All over the world. I mean, as we have referred to several times on this and several other programs, what happened with the COVID? Locked the whole world down, just like that. Nature, boom. There is a law of action and reaction that is actually being activated now, which is known as the law of retribution. And it's there in science, it's there in nature, it's there in all the scriptures. Every single scripture that's worthwhile calling it a scripture is there. It's been activated. So we have to find the way back. And in order to do that, we have to understand where we have gone wrong. And sadly, you know, as human beings, as a species, we have really not developed enough to handle the responsibility that we have now been bestowed with through our creativity, through our intelligence. You know, technology, most of the technology we have, a lot of it was driven just because we wanted to have weapons of warfare. And we've been using these weapons of warfare so negatively, not just against ourselves, but against the very nature, the very biodiversity, the very miracle of creation, which is our life support system.
Okay.
So we need to have a renewal of our minds. We need to refresh ourselves.
Yeah, Mr. Knight, when you spray aerosol in the air, the target is a mosquito.
Or the fly.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
Other
insects and stuff like that. In going back to nature, some technology, we definitely can't kill technology.
No, we can't kill technology. It's about adaptation, and it's about starting to move in the right direction. But let's go back to the biodiversity thing. That was our theme. What do you think eats the mosquitoes and eats the flies? Things like bats. You know, and if we kill the bats with things like insecticides and things like that, then we end up, you know, we try and solve one problem, we create another problem with it. And then the problem from the other side becomes worse than the problem we originally tried to solve.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of the projectants in aerosols, historically, CFCs, and thank God we've now got rid of those, but that was driving the hole in the ozone layer. So, you know, sometimes we think we're too clever, and we've got this, this is a technological solution, it'll all be fine. But nature solved many of these problems a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we can learn a lot from nature. And I think the other thing I was going to say is that I think there's an awful lot to be learned in terms of sustainability from looking at traditional cultures, traditional ways. And I think I always say to people, we're going to learn a lot from Africa and African traditional things that are going to help us survive in the new world, because this path we're going on is not sustainable. And I think COVID is just one indicator of how fragile it can be. You know, we've just shut the world down, basically. Yeah. And a lot of that was driven by environmental problems that led to that happening. So we've got to learn some of these lessons, and some of these lessons are there in traditional culture, and they're there in nature. And, you know, nature has had 1 billion experiments, solving 1 billion scientific experiments, and they have some amazing solutions out there.
Okay. Mr. Knight, this day is called International Day of Biodiversity. Do you think this day is being celebrated in China?
Well, you know, it's very, very interesting, because yesterday there was a survey came out, and it was about how do people think their government is doing in protecting nature. And it was number one was Saudi Arabia. And the bottom one was actually France. Nigeria was 3 from the bottom. And what that says is that Nigerians think the government could do more to protect nature. China was actually quite high up there. Now,
but they eat everything.
Well, they used to eat everything. Now, let's get this clear.
Really?
Well, so nobody's really reported about this.
Including cockroaches.
Insects may well be an important source of protein.
Oh, really?
Going forward, yes, because it's very sustainable, and actually they have a lot of protein. So don't mock the humble cockroach. Maybe your cockroach burger will come one day. But
what did you just say?
Insects can be a very important source of protein. Many cultures eat insects around the world.
No, but sustainable because they produce so much.
Yes, exactly.
They produce so much.
We should eat more cockroach. We should eat more.
Not
Maybe not cockroaches, maybe termites.
What's the difference?
Yeah, no.
Anyway,
Nigerians eat termites.
At least that one is more. Nigerians, they like that one more.
Because growing up, I remember the cook used to put water out for termites to fall into it. Yes, when it rained.
When they fledge, yes.
And then he would fry them.
And you would have
I was not that adventurous, thank you very much.
And the key thing,
but I wish I had been.
The key thing then we get back to is sustainability, and that is something that could be done a very sustainable source of protein.
Okay. Well, Mr. Naja will have just
termites.
1 minute. But why do you have to go there again? What? Just one, question, and you have just 1 minute. What do people need to begin to do now to return to nature, to embrace this biodiversity?
First of all, is the realization that we need every biodiversity to enjoy the life that we need to enjoy. We are all interconnected. And nature had placed all of these things in place so that it will serve one purpose after the other. And that is why in the food chain, or what we call the food web, the predator is usually smaller in number than the prey, so that it will control the population of the prey. And then the prey also is preying on another prey, which is more in population. So that balance has to be there. So what is my responsibility is for me to ask myself, what am I doing to either harm nature or to promote nature? Simple examples. At least let me relate it to myself. In my home, where do my trash end up? Plastics that I use. He talked about the sea turtle. As they travel between here and the islands in Caribbean, in the US, and while they are doing that, they are harvesting jellyfish. And jellyfish feed on fish. So if you remove turtle, you have bloom of jellyfish, and they will feed on fish, and they will not have enough fish. So you can see that we are all interconnected.
And so turtles eat plastic because they think it's jellyfish, and it gets poisoned.
And they get poisoned, yes.
So your plastic can end up killing the turtle.
So that's why I just brought out that example so that we'll be aware. When you are going to your shop, please pick a bag and shop. Don't go and get another plastic bag. No, pick your shopping bag. So I'm trying to connect to the daily things that we do.
Guys, I'm overloaded right now. So, I've had enough for one day. One doctor, medical doctor, told me once in an interview that we shouldn't kill all the mosquitoes in the world because they have their own role to play in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, don't talk about that one, please.
But if we have the right balance, the mosquito population will be under control from the natural balance. So, it only you get mosquito infestations when it's out of balance.
Yeah. So that balance.
Go read up on biodiversity so you know your role in all of this.
Happy International Day of Biodiversity.
I have to thank you, gentlemen, for being here this morning. Desmond Mark Jakodumi is founder Lufasi Park, and he is a foremost environmentalist in Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time. Joseph Onoja.
Environmental Bishop.
Joseph Onoja is Technical Director, Nigeria Conservation Foundation. Thank you so much, as well as Peter Knight, who is Executive Director, Wild Aid.
Thank you.
And please don't touch our bushmeat. We're back in a moment for another conversation. Do stay with us.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. During the week, cryptocurrency investors woke up to the brutal crash of their crypto investment. The worst since it gained more acceptance in January 2021. Now, what is this about? We have Khadija Abdulkadri in the studio with us, and she's Managing Director of Z Limited. And she'll be telling us more about cryptocurrency and this dip. And we'll be joined later by the founder of Blockchain Nigeria User Group, Chimezie Chuta. But we have Khadija with us, so let's get on with it. First of all, what is cryptocurrency?
So, good morning, and thank you for inviting me here today. I'm very excited. Cryptocurrency is really just an encryption. So it's
can you break it down? An encryption. When you think about cryptocurrency, you think about Krypton, Superman's
yes, exactly.
planet.
So, I mean,
which is not real.
Well, that depends. So, I mean, you don't think about crypto now. So, really, when you think about cryptocurrency, you really should start from the larger conversation of blockchain, right?
What is blockchain?
So, blockchain is really just a chain of information, so encrypted information.
Okay.
So if you think about security, encrypting, decrypting. So if I want to protect your information, I would encrypt it.
Coded.
Yes, so coded. You could say
Why
coded.
don't you just call it coded currency?
Oh, but I mean, you don't want to say coded currency because you would also still be slightly inaccurate. So for the purpose of accuracy, we want to say encrypted. So when we want to protect your information, we will encrypt your information.
Okay. Is it like saying I have money that I don't have?
No.
Yes.
Digital currency is like saying I have asset. It's an asset. So it's not really like saying I have money I don't have.
Intangible asset.
It's exactly. So you have an asset, but it is not physical assets. So it's a digital asset.
That's a bit confusing.
Very, very.
But Chimezie has joined us now. Chimezie Chuta, founder, Blockchain Nigeria User Group. Good morning and thank you for joining us. Now, let's see if you can give us a better and more elementary explanation of what a cryptocurrency is. So that 20-year-old at home, 18-year-old at home watching today can understand cryptocurrency.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Khadija, thanks again for connecting again today. Now, cryptocurrency, like Khadija had already explained, is basically an encryption. That is a way of hiding a computer information while it's being transferred from one person to another. And it's also a peer-to-peer based type of asset exchange. In other words, someone can give someone an asset, probably money, or a very unique type of asset, and he will completely give it up for the other party. So it is a means of exchanging valuables. So we use the overall name, cryptocurrencies, to identify all such asset classes. So basically, it's new and is leveraging some type of cryptography technology that had previously existed, which in the past were really military-grade type of security cryptography. So that's exactly what cryptocurrencies are.
Well, the volatility of that, what did you call it now? Asset is very, very disturbing. When it rises astronomically.
And when it crashes,
okay,
like a ton of bricks.
Is it a fall or a crash?
Dip.
Dip. Okay. Oh, it
Like
dips like
when
a ton.
It dips,
Well, okay.
it takes a deep dive. Okay. So that's one thing that gives people serious concern about it.
So I think that to underestimate volatility would be very premature on all of our parts.
Or lying.
Yeah. I also think that to not expect it is also really ignorant as well. It's a new ecosystem, but even within the regular traditional stock market, we have some volatility. Of course, we're beginning to gain a lot of stability now because it's been years and years. But if you think about the cryptocurrency market, we're just new. I mean, even if it's 10 years is still fairly new when you're dealing with a new market. So there is a lot of volatility. It's a high-risk environment. Of course, it's a high-risk environment because there is, it follows a lot of trend patterns at the moment. There's not a lot of regulation, and it's not yet the most efficient form of transaction for regular day-to-day kind of investments. So I think saying it's too volatile, well, yes, it is very volatile. It's too risky. Yes, it is a risky environment, but then it also depends on what kind of investor you are, what kind of trader you are, how much information do you have about that ecosystem, and how long have you been operating in that ecosystem.
If I wanted to start investing in cryptocurrency, for instance, how would I go about it?
Okay, the very first thing that a new entrant should do about crypto is to spend quality time learning. I think it was Warren Buffett that said that never invest on what you don't understand. A lot of people don't understand the market cycle of crypto. So they don't know exactly how the market works. And it's obvious because people like to, go where they, this herd mentality, wherever the crowd is going, that's where they want to go without even asking the question of how does this thing work? See, the current volatility is not something that is unusual in a bull market because we are currently in a bull market. And the signal had already shown that the crypto assets were already being overbought. Okay, and if you look at the cycle, you know that when there is an overbought like that in the market, the chances are that the market is going to go through a correction. And that correction will, throw a lot of weak hands out of the market. So a new person coming into the market, probably without research, he will just jump in from the top. And that's where they get burnt, because you don't buy an asset when it's at its peak, because you're definitely going to get burnt. But the truth of the matter is that everyone who has ever bought Bitcoin, for instance, whether he bought at the top or he bought at the bottom, eventually gets into profit. In other words, the circle, the market circle of Bitcoin and most cryptocurrencies guarantees that at least every 4 years, there's going to be a price jump from wherever it was. So for those who had already bought and probably they are having issues on whether they want to sell, or you have already sold or whatever. But if you are in a situation where you bought any of these cryptocurrencies and the market dipped like this, at this time when you sell, definitely you'll be in a loss. And that will make you feel that our cryptocurrency is bad. What you do, you hold it. You hold it and wait it out. Probably in the next 1 month, in the next 2 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, even if it takes 3 years, you wait it out and you will still be back in profit. No one who held Bitcoin for a long time has ever lost by holding it. So the best thing to do first is to get enough information, learn, study, ask questions, join communities that will teach you accurate stuff. Not, don't fall for what you see on social media or maybe just on Facebook. Somebody says, this coin is going to go to the moon. And you just say, wow, where is it? Let me buy. No, you have to really, really spend time to understand this thing. Understand this is technology. And there's no color inside it. So it's speculation of the technologies that will rebuild the systems that we already have. There are people who are speculating on some of the cryptocurrencies to replace platforms like Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, and all that. And it's natural for people to invest in them in their early stages. So that's exactly what I think a new user to do. Study, learn before you go involved.
In parentheses, since you mentioned Bitcoin, approximately how much is Bitcoin now?
Currently, Bitcoin is 37,300-ish this morning. And this time last year, Bitcoin was probably around $7,000. So you could see the progression. Early in the year, Bitcoin was $20,000. So currently, it's 37, and it dropped to 37 from an all-time high of $65,000.
Interesting. Since you quoted Warren Buffett, it's the same Warren Buffett that said he's never going to touch it with a 10-meter pole and one single cryptocurrency. But you can't also shy away, Khadija, from the fact that people always testify that they make a lot of money from Bitcoin.
How?
And I'm wondering, so the question that I'm asking is, really, how does it work? How does it appreciate? What do you do with cryptocurrency that makes it rise in value?
So I think it's economics, right? It's really economics. It's the same thing. We're just dealing with a digital market. So nothing is different. When there is a demand, there's a supply, right? And that's what increases or decreases value. So if you think about it, so say, for example, Elon Musk tweets, right? He tweets a random tweet, really, a couple months ago and says, we bought 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. The moment, and then he also, in the same conversation, says Tesla will accept this coin to buy a Tesla. I mean, how many people are trying to buy a Tesla? Think about maybe if I want to buy something, I want to avoid charges. I mean, because remember, trading with digital currency actually does help you avoid the typical traditional bank regulations and all the other things that you can skip when you make transactions. Yeah, quite a couple of things, in fact, I mean, which is why people are cracking down, like the United States, with taxes, saying that if you trade up to $10,000, you have to report it to the IRS, right? So there are really a lot of reasons why people are preferring digital currencies for larger transactions. Now, how does it appreciate? Well, think about it now. Somebody important has tweeted something to suggest something. I mean, people manipulate even our regular stock market. So this is just an instance of that such manipulation. So I'm thinking, oh, I need to buy some Bitcoin because I'm going to need it. But I'm not the only one who's thinking this, right? A couple of other people are thinking they're going to need to buy some Bitcoin. So there is a demand for it. And that demand, of course, starts to increase the price.
Yeah.
But in the same vein, I come back tomorrow, if I was Elon Musk or somebody as important, and I say, you know what?
We're not accepting Bitcoin anymore.
I don't want to do this. And then China says, you know what? we don't want to do this anymore. And then Biden says, you know what? Everybody who makes a transaction of $10,000 must report it. What happens? Everyone goes into a panic. So a liquidity grab starts to happen, right? Where we're all panicking, and so we're starting to want to sell. But now there is a supply with a little bit less demand. So I don't want to buy for 40. I'll buy it for 20. But you know what? I'm so desperate. I just, sell it off.
Get rid of it.
So what happens? The price plummets. So again, Chimeze is very right. Don't necessarily go into a panic sell when there is a dip, because the same tweet will happen again, probably in a couple of weeks.
And it's going to rise.
Something is going to happen. But this happens even within the stock market, right? In the United States, we know about the hedge funds. They manipulate the market all the time, but not to this level, because this is a new market. So eventually it's going to gain maturity, and it will just be the same as the regular stock market, where you make this kind of,
whatever it is. Now, Chimeze, do you see a time, because, you know very well, cryptocurrency is largely unregulated. Khadija also said that earlier. Do you see a time when people will be able to trust the product and say 100% we go all the way for it? Because right now, with this volatility and certain comments coming from various governments all over the world, it will seem like we're not ready for it.
Okay, thank you so much. The answer to that question, first of all, starts from a sub-answer to the question that Khadija already had answered. Now, fundamentally, the Bitcoin monetary system was designed to be deflationary. Again, now, in the crypto economic system embedded in the Bitcoin protocol, there is a design to create scarcity, and that scarcity is what drives value. The very first time Bitcoin was, released, the network rewards its miners, the people that maintain the protocol, with about 50 Bitcoin each in every 10 minutes. And this amount of reward has consistently depreciated, and it drops every 4 years. It first of all dropped from 50 to 25, from 25 to 12.5, then currently is 6.25 BTC every 10 minutes. Now, you have to understand also that because Bitcoin has a finite supply of 21 million, each time the reward of Bitcoin is reduced, it creates scarcity in the space. And that scarcity is what drives its value. Now, let's come in why regulators have issues with it. Monetary systems have been instruments of control by governments that issue them. And when you have politicians and they get involved with government and governance, they can manipulate the monetary system for their own personal gain and selfish interest. And that is the reason why when Bitcoin comes and people see the lack of control that anyone can vest on top of it, because it's designed to be censorship resistant. It's designed to be completely out of anybody's control. Now they begin to wonder, if we lose control of people's money, if we lose control of people's wealth, then how are we going to control them? And that's where their challenges are. Everywhere in the world, regulators have issues with Bitcoin because people are making a choice of the smart money, the hard money they want to use, against the money that government issued them. Government print money. They print money every time. So there is no final supply of money. And because there's no final supply of money, every holder of the government issued company, whether it's in US dollar or Naira, loses the value of his hard-earned work through the inflation that occurs on those currencies. And this is the reason why these things happen. So we're going to have a continued going back and go forth with regulators and policymakers until they figure a way where they can accept that the people have spoken, and they have spoken in the Bitcoin language. And that's one of the things that is causing the entire system to have this imbalance that we're having. I mean, there is a calculated attempt by different governments, different regulatory agencies across the world to push down and suppress the price of Bitcoin so that they can see if they too can have a buy-in, and by buying, they can have some type of control. But Bitcoin is designed to be such that, I mean, even if you have the whole money in the world and you say you want to buy Bitcoin from everybody, it's not everybody who will sell to you. No matter what you want, I can hold my own. You can't control the system. That's why it's such a big threat to government.
Well, Chimezie, on that, if it's not subject to individual control, how come Bitcoin assets are designed? I mean, how come it responds to individuals' comments if it's designed to be decentralized? Question from Brendan.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get that question. The audio was a little bit muffled. Can you repeat it again, please?
Brendan says Bitcoin assets are designed to be decentralized. Why does it respond to individuals' comments?
Okay, thank you so much. Very correct. Now, this whole world, people are ruled by emotions and sentiments. And just like everything in the world, most people don't use their head, they use their emotions when they want to trade or do businesses. So when an influential individual, let's say someone like Elon Musk that has 55 million followers, and is very rich, says something or tweets something, because he has a wide reach, people pick up that information. And the majority have what I had already said, the herd mentality. They go where the crowd is going. They don't even understand what is going on. They will move in that direction. So typically, people are moved by such things more than the fundamental thing they are supposed to do to understand what Bitcoin is or what cryptocurrencies are. So it will continue to be like that. There's no industry that people don't manipulate. There's no such industry. I mean, Goldman Sachs was built about $10 billion for manipulating the market a few years ago. So market manipulation is what people do because they understand that people are slaves to their emotions. And you cannot be a slave to your emotion and be a good investor. You should be able to know that, look, these things, again, I quote Warren Buffett, say, okay, that be bold to enter into the market when other people are fearful. So this time that people are fearful and they are dumping their cryptos and dumping their Bitcoin is the time that smart investors move in, because that's when they get Bitcoin at a discount and for cheap. So it will continue to be like that.
How much is it now?
Currently, like I said earlier, Bitcoin current price is exactly $37,300.
What was it before now?
$37,500. Yeah.
I mean,
$37,500.
it's in a dip now, and it's 37,000. So how much was it before?
It was previously from where it dropped down to 37,000 was about 65. The all-time high was $65,000 in the early part of April. Okay. So that was the highest point that Bitcoin price has attained. But when you want to look at the highest point, you also need to look at where the price was before. Incidentally, today being the 22nd of May is very significant in Bitcoin history because it was in this day, some 10 years ago, some 11 years ago, that someone paid for pizza with 10,000 Bitcoin. And as at that time, Bitcoin was pennies. I mean, pennies. You can imagine buying pizza that you eat in your mouth, 10,000 of Bitcoin for it. So it shows you where it started from, where it is now, and where it's going.
Okay. So, well, we're running out of time. I have just about 3 minutes or so. But Omar Farouk wants me to ask you, Khadija. The stock market is controlled by sale and purchase of commodities such as sugar, cement, petrol, and so on. as well as marketers' impact. What controls or influence the crypto market aside from human influence?
Well, also the things that you're buying. So people buy estates, for example, similar like sugar, right? Again, like I said earlier, it depends on what you're trying to avoid that is causing you to need to be away from the regulated market, right? So the regulated market, I give you 1 naira for sugar. You give me sugar and I go, right? I want to buy a house, I pay you maybe 50 million naira for that house, but then I'm heavily taxed and there are a couple of, things. Or maybe I want to buy something abroad. And the channels to make that purchase becomes like heavily dense, becomes really cumbersome and really distracting, because you're having to go through this channel and that channel, conversations here and there, right? I want to buy a car, for example. My car is over here, so I think that it's not yet, and I think this is really what's the most significant part of conversation we're not having today. The crypto market is not ready yet for day-to-day transactions. That's not currently taking place. So yes, it's not controlled by day-to-day type of transactions. It's controlled by more like heavier, denser conversations, like I want to make a very big transaction, probably sometime outside my country. I want to have access to decentralized ability to make this kind of purchasing conversation without too much regulation. So I think the concerns we're struggling with is the average person. I mean, you can't buy a $10,000 pizza, right? So that average person conversation is really what's beginning to interrupt the cryptocurrency discussion right now. So we need to separate concerns a little bit so that we can start to see, okay, it's not day-to-day transactions yet. It will become day-to-day transaction eventually when it becomes mature enough.
I'll wait till then. In the meantime, Festus says cryptocurrency is a scam. China is currently cracking down on it. Its value is now crashing like a pack of cards.
Well, no, not a scam. Not a scam. I think China did the same thing in 2017, right? So again, I think that's the problem. It's not new. So China has woken up. The government says, "Oh my God, crypto is trending. Blockchain, Bitcoin is trending again. Let's say something to disrupt this market." So they go and they say the exact same thing they said in 2017. So if you were paying attention in 2017, what China said today is really the same thing. It didn't say don't own it. It didn't say don't mine it. It just said we're going to regulate or don't collect, right?
Can any government really tell people what not to do, seeing that even Nigeria...
Do you have any Bitcoins?
What are you talking about?
Okay, all right.
So here's my advice for a lot of people, because we talk about Bitcoin a whole lot, right? But it's just one of the coins, right? Like one of the many coins that are available. I think there are close to 4,000 coins at the moment.
4,000?
Yes, and I think there are too many also. But then again, can we say there are too many currencies? Because every country has a currency, right?
Yeah, I also understand that there are some of them that have gone kaput, as we say.
Just like a lot of currencies, like the Naira.
No,
we're still spending it.
Yes, we're still spending it.
We're still spending it.
So we have to, this conversation is definitely not just going to go away. It's something that we have to sustain. But for now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our program this morning.
Thank you.
Chimeze Chuta is founder of Blockchain Nigeria User Group, as well as Khadija Abdulkadir, Managing Director, Z Limited. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For
Thank you very
time
much.
and thoughts
Thanks.
today.
Thank you.
So, we're back for the
home stretch.
Home stretch in a bit. Do stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. We have with us a female talking drummer. You probably have heard of her because she's been around for a while. We have Aralola Olamuyiwa. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. What I remember about her very clearly is that her hair always goes down to almost her knees. And I wonder, every time I see her, I ask her how long it takes her to get that hair done. Today is not even black.
No.
Today it's like a kind of yellow mustard. Yeah, it's a mustard color today. And she's got yellow beads and a trademark length. The braids are down to her knees or even lower. Welcome, Ara.
Thank you so much for having me here, ma'am.
Good to see you.
It's great to be back here.
What is the meaning of your name?
My name means wonder.
That's
Unique.
Ara.
Yes.
I work with the full name.
Yes, please. Miss Wonder, unique. Ara Lola Olamuyiwa.
Ara Lola
Olamuyiwa.
Where did this begin from for you?
For me, this started about over 30 years ago.
Whoa.
As a talking drummer, I started drumming from like the tender age of 5, and I had to. I grew up in Warri.
Okay.
My father was a senior manager with UBA for years, so we went on transfer to Warri. So I was the head of the cultural group back then. But my first experience with the talking drum actually happened when I was in, I think, primary 4. It was the Yailu, the mother drum. So we had gone to Ondo for Ogun Festival, and my great-grandfather had a mini palace. I was always so taken by the drum. So I said to myself, I told the old man, can I just touch your drum? So he gave it to me, and I hit it. It never left me. So when the brand Ara was created in 2000, I was made to play different instruments. But the talking drum came, much later, when I told my then manager I would love to play with this instrument. But of course, there were no females on the scene then. So there was nobody to look up to as a mentor or somebody to run to. As a matter of fact, the men, the guys were kind of dodgy, So
they didn't want you playing.
They didn't want to teach me because I don't blame them. Everybody reacts to change differently. So that was their own reaction. But on the long run, with submission, humility, and all of that, I got them to,
So you've been playing the talking drum for more than 20 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. What has the journey been like for you?
Wow, the journey has been beautiful, not without its challenges. When you bring about change to a traditional institution, you're bound to come across, different form of challenges, especially being a female. But I would say I got away with a lot of things. Perhaps it was time, it was destiny. And I was very lucky in that I always say this, perhaps my God, brought about this, and my ancestors were actually in support of what I was doing. So the challenges over time was, my greatest fear was, how am I going to be accepted? But, everything played out well at the end of the day. I like to look at the challenges as the ladder, the steps to get into my success story.
It's interesting that you brought about the gender part of it,
Yes.
piggybacking on Lero's question. Okay. Are these challenges peculiar because you were female in this seemingly male-dominated sector of music?
I wouldn't say that. For every endeavor in life, be you male or female, you're bound to face challenges. For every level you get to in life, you're bound to face challenges. But for me, it was more of, not getting in the way of tradition and people, thank you, not getting in the way of tradition and people. I was scared of, the number one thing for me was, am I going to be accepted? Now, for me, that was the major thing, because I knew I was...
Why did you feel like that?
I was breaking a major traditional jinx, supposedly so.
So what were you told about tradition at the time you were starting?
I was
that
told...
women were not allowed to play the talking drum, or what?
Yes, I was told that women were not supposed to.
Were not supposed to?
Yes. even though you are from your family. Women were not supposed to. I will not be able to have a child. My soup will be sour, and etc., etc. Now,
did any of this come true?
No. My son clocked 13 on Tuesday. So, and I cooked the best soup around. You can ask those who have tasted
We should
soup.
ask your husband.
Well, I'm not married.
Oh, okay. All right.
But for those who have tasted your soup, I'm curious.
All right.
We should ask them.
Exactly. Possibly
if your soup has been sour.
Never.
Or you invite us over to come and sample the soup so we can tell the whole world.
That's more like it. You're invited. So, I mean, that was about it. But I got to know recently that the mother, the King Laoi of Ede, his mother was actually a female talking drummer. So I had to change the narrative from being the first or pioneer female talking drummer to being the first celebrated female talking drummer. Yes.
Ara, you played for the Queen of England.
Yes.
And you played for the former President Bill Clinton.
Yes.
And you've played for Obasanjo.
Yes.
Wow. And the list just goes on and on.
I'm curious.
Okay.
How did the Queen dance to the talking drum?
Now, she didn't dance.
Oh.
She was seated beside former President Olusegun Obasanjo. It was at the, it was at a major event in Nigeria at the time. Chogom. Yes.
Yeah.
Chogom was 2004 or something?
Yes, 2004, because I remember I flew in from the States because I had gone to record with Stevie at the time. So I had to...
Stevie, she says.
Stevie Wonder, yes. So I had to be flown back to the country for that. And I remember Dr. Yerima was in charge of the national troop.
National troop.
Yes. Yeah. So I had to perform with the national troop. So I was the major act with the Yoruba session of the cultural troop. So I got in there with my long braids and I saw her reaction. That for me was, hey, I'm right there in front of the Queen of England. And I could tell she loved it. And I could tell from the reaction of everybody. And even from my father, I call him my father, former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He was very proud. I could see, wow, this is my daughter. I'm so proud of her.
And the former president of the U.S.?
Bill Clinton?
Oh, Bill Clinton, yes. He was in Nigeria for an event.
Yes.
He danced. Actually, I don't have that clip. You know, I think he loves our culture, kind of. He kind of, judged with us at some point.
KSA's juju
yes,
music as well.
yes.
And I'm like, how did you lift the leg?
It's easy if you have ear for rhythm. It's quite easy.
So now, the talking drum is an iconic instrument.
Yes.
In Africa. And it definitely has transcended generations and it has evolved over the years. So what is that thing that makes that instrument unique? Beside the fact that it talks, please don't tell me that.
Okay.
Beside
and
that,
few understand its language.
And few, So what is it that makes it, different? And what is it supposed to represent? And does it represent it?
Yes, thank you very much, sir. It still represents it. First, before it became a musical instrument, it was a means of communication. It was used from village to village, territory to territory to announce whatever event it was, be it war, be it arrival of, great personalities. Till date, the Alaafin of Oyo's palace, the talking drum announces who is coming in and who is going out, so the Kabiyesi wakes him up. So it was, and still is a means of communication. Now, the story goes that it is, how do I put this? I want to speak Yoruba. I'm allowed to, okay. Oku awo to fon bi eniyan. Right. It's taken from an animal skin. And you must know that there's something spiritual about that drum. It says, and your family have a god that is worshipped with this drum. So it's a deity on its own. That is why a lot of people believe that, for you to be the first female talking drummer, you must possess some kind of power to have been able to, sum out all the pressures and everything. So it's a very unique instrument. It's a very spiritual instrument. And if you listen well enough, if you speak my dialect, which is Yoruba, by the way, it speaks the dialect or the language of whoever is playing. For instance, I used to play the American national anthem. You can speak French. You can speak different languages, really. So if I speak Russian, for instance, I can actually play it on my talking drum. So it's a very unique instrument.
Now, there is another female drummer called Ara.
Okay.
Thunder.
Yes.
Do you have any connection with her at all?
No, I don't have any connection, but I know that she's been groomed by my former manager. Yes, she was alongside other female drummers. They have Bata, Olo, Bata, and other ladies who play drums. So
there's quite a number of them these days.
Yes.
Well, okay, Ara, all we can do now is wish you all the best.
Thank you.
You've been touring the world playing your talking drum and projecting Nigeria. Well done.
Thank you very much.
And keep at it.
Where is the drum?
Right here.
Oh. I was just going to tell her that we will close the program now, and she will have the joy.
But perhaps you're going to do this
of drumming us out of Sunrise for today.
Auntie Laura is going to sing.
Oh,
I beg your pardon.
Tony agrees actually.
Anyway, that is Sunrise for today. We'll bring you another version next Saturday. My name is Alera. I'll be wishing you all the best.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day. So what do I do?
Over to you, Ara. No, over to you, Ara.
Auntie Alera now. Yeah, clap for us. Eh? Bye. You see?